Welcome back to the Caedrel for Game 2 of Rogue versus G2 Esports. G2 got everything they wanted. Senna, Seraphine, Rogue got an early game that has been defining wins for them all spring, and ultimately it didn't matter. So this is a worrying sign for Rogue, but they do have side selection, and maybe we can see something different this time around.
Yeah, I would say the shocking thing is leaving both Senna and Seraphine open, and then the blue side team somehow gets both of them.
Yep.
Now, of course, Rogue is over on the blue side, so I actually wouldn't be surprised to see like G2 perhaps ban the Senna themselves to deny that one away from Rogue, because I think that champion is crazy.
So for me, the surprise was seeing a Lilia ban and then still banning the Lucian. And I know that Lucian Nidalee is still a possibility, but it's nowhere near as strong as like the Lilia-Lucian combo. So I feel like that they need to take a little bit of a lower priority on removing all of those mid lane AD carries. And as rightly as Ender says, now that they have first pick, I would like them to see the Seraphine taken off the board. My question is, what happens to the Jinx? Because we saw G2 ban it on blue side. If they now ban it on red side,
big signals.
Rogue get a lot of information, which is, okay, these guys are perma-banning Jinx, and they don't want to play it, which is a big deal in the draft, because then you're guaranteed a free ban that you then don't have to worry about for the rest of the series.
As a reminder, if you are just joining us, G2 on blue side, they banned Jinx, Lilia, Hecarim during Phase 1. Rogue banned Tristana, Lucian, and Orianna. So a lot of the mid lane focus. Now, of course, as Rogue lost Game 1, they had side selection. They picked blue, and let's see what happens.
So I just had an idea. So what you could do is, if you leave Seraphine up, maybe you trade Orianna for the Seraphine. I don't know if that's necessarily
I think Seraphine's crazy, though.
I mean, I agree, but I'm just saying that, like, if you know that G2 wants Senna/Seraphine, you might be able to get an Orianna trade. And the debate then becomes, is the Orianna worth it for a player
I
like
don't
Larssen?
think so. I don't think so. I wouldn't buy into that. I would not be surprised to see, like, maybe a Seraphine or Senna make it open, even perhaps an Orianna. Now expecting, like, G2 to have to ban a lot of those OPs over on the red side. But I think it will be fairly similar here in terms of, like, I don't think we're going to see some kind of double trade like that. I would like to watch mid lane champ pool for Larssen, because on the Syndra, I think, can have a great lane phase, all these things, but it's not like the 1v9 in the late game champion, like the Azir, like an Orianna, perhaps like these picks that Larssen is so fierce on in the later stage of the game.
Well, just to let you know that with more than 5 games played, Orianna is Larssen's most successful champion. Will he get it? Will it matter? Let's find out. Game 2 draft. Rogue on the blue side, another funky beat to bring us the draft. And the big question
Is this what the 80s were like, Quickshot?
Space Invaders. This is what you used to listen to, right?
Yes, except you would have been dressed much nicer. Senna is banned straight out the gate. That is the 21st ban in now 29 games. Rekkles was able to pick up a win on Senna back in Week 5, a win just moments ago, and we may not see it again. And the question mark for me, Jinx. Will it be banned again? It was a big talking point for us in our prep, and it is still available for now, but the Tristana's removed.
Yeah, so I think that this is smart if G2, because you may get Rogue to ban it for you, right? So why not save it if it's something you want to remove? But again, we'll have to wait and see Tristana taken off the board. Now, I wonder if G2 will remove the Lucian, or instead they'll just remove the Orianna. I feel like Orianna makes more sense if I am G2, because you do not really want to give that champion over, and it's great to see that Rogue have adapted their draft and say, you know what, no more hyper late game scaling for you guys on the other side of the wreck.
Exactly, because the Rogue staples is usually like strong, like pushing early lanes, fast clear early jungle. Also the scaling element. The scaling element is the area they were definitely losing against G2 in the last game. So the question is, with scaling options gone, does that potentially change G2's playstyle? Do they come out with a little bit more firepower in the early game now that they can't just coast and wait for that Senna Seraphine to come online?
Ooh, the Hecarim ban does suggest that Rogue is looking for that Volibear/Udyr trade. Maybe they'll actually trade it for the Lilia, because that is up and available this time around. A lot of question marks. I mean, you have to assume that with the Hecarim ban, what Rogue is saying here is, okay, if you ban Orianna, what we will then do is we'll lock in Lucian, and then we'll take the Lucian-Lilia combo. However, now G2 is saying, okay, if you want Lucian-Lilia, we'll take Orianna. So you make the choice. What is the mid lane matchup that you want? Because G2 can then just trade it for the other side.
And I remember back to this semifinal matchup last year when it was about like the Lucian in the mid lane, the Akali, these pop-off style mid lanes. And that was the series where Larssen sort of stepped up against Caps. It struggled so often against him throughout his career, but now back on that Lucian with a whole lot of firepower in the early game in the mid lane. This is Rogue bread and butter.
What does Caps want to run into it? A lot of these high priority picks still open and available, and this will give us some really good insight into G2's preparations and adaptations from last week to this week. We've seen a game on blue, we've seen a game on red. The Karma has been locked in, and I'm gonna say it, I'll be the first, I won't be the last. Please don't be on Rekkles. We need to see the rest of the draft. We've seen how potent and powerful top lane Karma can be. I would prefer it to go that way, but let's see what G2 does.
And I think it's almost an idea here from G2 where if they don't take the Karma, that could just get locked in by Rogue, whether they want to play it for Odo or the bot side, but Vedi, take the floor.
The Nocturne, wow, there's actually not a lot to say here. They've just blind picked Nocturne.
It's just your champion.
It's just, yeah, so the cool thing about Nocturne is that he is, of course, a flex pick. There's the Jinx coming through from Rogue. Wow, I mean, I look at Rogue's comp and I'm like, this is such a powerful draft already. Hyperscaling AD carry, they have power in the mid. The problem is they have no jungle, and oh my god, oh my word, whoa!
Vedi. I am gonna have to double check this, but I don't think Caps has ever played Nocturne. It could go mid. This is the first ever Jinx for Hansama in his professional career in nearly 300 games here in Europe. And we have a Blitzcrank as well.
Yeah, this is just wild. Of course, Mickey's going to love this Blitzcrank matchup up against the Thresh. We've seen it a whole lot. Everyone's going to tell you that Blitzcrank is going to love that. When you see some priority targets on the other side, these are the types of things Mikyx has to look at. When you throw a Nocturne into the mix as well, you can make half the team fight dark. You can be repositioning with people within team fights. So if skill shots are landing, G2's team fights can be super chaotic and very potent.
I really like Nocturne into champions like Lucian and Jinx as well because they are relatively squishy, but also Stride Breaker means that you can lock them down so much easier. But we'll have to see. Like, of course, it can be flexed. The Fiddlesticks ban coming out from G2. Maybe they're just banning out. Maybe they're just banning out AP junglers. Like Karthus was another one that Ender, you and I were talking about earlier on in the day. But AP junglers, the AP damage is very limited for Rogue right now.
Yeah, well, the idea is like, what are the other AP picks left? Well, you have like the Nidalee, which would be standard. Inspired has loved that champion before, but
maybe.
But then, I mean, Talia Karthus potentially. But if you go for the Nidalee, which would be like the meta or the more expected of all these, well, then you have three very squishy champions. You have all these targets for both a Nocturne and a Blitzcrank. Now we do lock in that Karma is either going top lane or mid lane. It won't be for Rekkles. Rekkles played so many of games of Jhin during the regular season, and now has that support, has that CC to back up a Blitzcrank and punish anyone that gets hooked.
It is his fourth most played champion with 47 games played, but a negative win ratio. This season, however, 8 games played, he won 7 of them. So Rekkles very comfortable on that one. Inspired will be running Nidalee after the AP junglers of Lily and Fiddlesticks have been removed from the pool, and we're starting to see an interesting composition.
I just think it's so hard to play. Like,
yep.
a part of me sits there and likes it, but at the same time, I'm like, the execution required on this is so difficult, because the thing about hyper carries like Jinx is I think that they really thrive when they have a strong front line to be able to play around, and I don't think this is a strong front line for you to be able to play around. Like, Renekton this lane to the draft, like, you imagine a Karma top lane as well.
Yeah.
Like, I'm struggling here, Ender.
I mean, I love this final lock-in for G2. I mean,
so good.
Because like, you have everything, right? You have globals in your jungler and your mid lane, and I was just about to say the strength of what Rogue can do with Lucian Nidalee is you push mid, you run into the side lanes, and you collapse whenever you're pushing down tower. So like, having a Renekton up there, of course, whenever you look towards that lane, you can probably kill a Karma. You can potentially play around bot side as well, but now it's so hard because whenever you leave your lane, you know there's going to be a Twisted Fate to follow you up. Yep. And once level 6 is unlocked for Jankos, Inspired has to think twice about any ganks he goes for.
This is the 12th unique jungler that Jankos has played. This is his 8th professional game. I'm actually severely disappointed it's not in Caps or Wunder's hands. But the way this draft has played out, good luck being Jinx, as and when these fights come together.
But I'm just happy to see it in the jungle because the LPL has been raving about it for a while now. It's actually been super high on the priority table when it comes to banning out, and I think that it can be a very strong engaged tool. We'll have to see how Jankos pilots the champion. I prefer G2's comp once again. The question is, can Rogue have a flawless early game? Because, again, one big mistake, and this game is going to start to snowball in G2's hands.
Yeah, Inspired and Larssen have to show up early. We saw Inspired completely dancing around Jankos in the early clear in our previous game. A very different style of junglers this time around, but all the more important. Let's dive in to game 2.
And welcome to the Rift. As the 8-bit was a little bit of a tonal shift there from our nice
Welcome to level 2.
Absolutely love this. Larssen gets the Lucian on the first pick, and as the draft continues to play out, G2 able to piece together the necessary abilities and composition that can punish and dissuade anything that Rogue could put together. Now, Vedius, you were talking a little bit about the difficulties of Rogue's composition to play. And if they need to get ahead, we saw in game 1, Rogue got ahead. It wasn't enough. It wasn't enough of an advantage to allow their composition to take down G2, and they're going to need to do more and even have potentially even larger lead this time.
They certainly are, and we've seen Lucian Nidalee before. I think we even saw it in the regular season from G2 a couple times, right? It can be a very powerful 2v2 mid-jungle duo. You generally get a lot of priority by having Lucian in the lane, and then you can use that priority to be able to invade, get in the face of the enemy jungle, and against a champion like Nocturne, who can actually struggle to get on top of Nidalee in the early game, I think that it can get you leads that you can then transition elsewhere onto the map. My concern comes from, usually when you have a Renekton in the game, you kind of like want that strong top side that you then want to try and play through. So maybe you use your mid prio to roam up top, and then you dive the Renekton, and then you try and get them really far ahead. But then you're abandoning your bot side of the map, which is quite clearly G2's focus this game. So one of the annoying things about TF and Nocturne is TF ults bot, burns your flashes, goes back to mid. Nocturne then ults bot where you've got no flashes left, or you do one or the other, or they gank together. The double globals can be so painful at attacking these side lanes.
Yeah, you can see there in the mid lane, Larssen starting with his E at level 1, take those very aggressive trades, fighting into caps, taking over early again. There's also a very early ward placed by Inspired before the jungle clear even began on Jankos' Raptors to know that he's starting on the bot side of the map, get some information out, and Inspired used that early info against Jankos in game 1 to completely outdo him in the early clear.
Well, can he do it again? Death sentence goes wide. Trymbi with the flame was not underneath the turret. I think they're in rocket grab.
Just no level 2 from Rekkles. If he had the deadly flourish, that probably would have been a dead Trymbi. But yeah, good spot there. Quickshot. It was a very close one for sure. Good hook from Mikyx. We'll see if he can land a couple more good ones as the laning phase progresses.
And for any of the golden oldies, Thresh into Blitz is the Hook City bottom lane. One shot secured for Mikyx, and now a gigantic wave pushed under the tower. And Summer's going to be able to get a lot of damage with that minigun. Not swapping over to Fishbones just yet, Ender.
Yeah, no real wave control for a Jhin versus, Jhin and Blitzcrank over the early wave, and knowing Jankos was pathing away from them, they weren't really fighting too aggressively for the level 2, so early plate for Onsama, definitely going to be happy with that. Of course, Jinx is kind of the scaling element that exists for Rogue. You look around, it's maybe a little bit weaker, although with G2 not running like super hard frontline, either Renekton will still be a force to be reckoned with in any of these mid to late game fights. With that ultimate, the sustain he can get from his Mikyx, of course, going to be very, very relevant.
And of course, when I see Hansama playing a champion that is his first professional game ever, and I mentioned this in the previous game, Hansama's played 244 LEC games. He's third most, Rekkles 452. This is a player that's looking to step up. Odo will get jumped on. Hansama will get some support here from Inspired. Good damage back and forth, but Rogue have always fallen short of being able to topple G2. And in the previous game, their playstyle got countered, so I need to see them step up this time around.
Yeah, this time the scaling not quite as hard for G2, and again, early moves worked out. They're able to burn the flash off of Mikyx with that bot lane play. Of course, a good hook from Trymbi landed, I think, before the camera snapped down to there.
Just out of curiosity, Endo, who do you think has the better scaling? Because like I actually think G2 has the strongest scaling. Purely because when I look at Jhin and his relative scaling, it comes very much down to frontline. So obviously he struggles against tanks because he only has 4 bullets. But because he crits very hard against squishy targets in the late game, he can actually do an insane amount of damage against champions like Renekton, Thresh, who are not the same type of tanks that you often get elsewhere. So to me, I think that with the global presence and the ability to attack side lanes, I kind of prefer G2's late game.
Yeah, I would say it's not as clear-cut. Inspired lands a good spear.
He does indeed. Not allowed to answer the question. Wunder once again is going to be cut down. Inspired, good gang top.
Yeah, really good setup there. Of course, landing the CC to make an easy spear come on through. To get back to that idea, though, I would say that the way fights play out, G2 have so many good options in these spread out fights as mid lane continues to trade very aggressively because, right, you have like the long range engage options like Jhin bullets to slow people down while you're porting in Caps and Jankos. So I think that in a chaotic game state, in a scattered map, once turrets have fallen, like you were kind of saying, playing around side lanes too, G2 have all the tools in the world to snap on someone, get a pick, and then convert off the numbers advantage.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Right, sorry, I was already thinking about the next thing, which was the whole Renekton Nidalee thing we didn't really talk at all about during the draft. But, of course, it is very prominent. It was for a very long time, prior to the Renekton nerfs, kind of like the go-to pretty much across the world. And this is also something that I think Rogue is now demonstrating some of the power. I think Wunder didn't really manage his wave super well. He should have let it bounce back towards him because his jungler wasn't playing towards the top side. So it was a very easy gang for Rogue to actually successfully set up. And now they've got the Renekton a little bit ahead. I imagine they're going to look to keep trying to play through this mid and top side. As I say that, Inspired right now hovering around.
Remember, there's no flash on Mikyx, so if any shenanigans are afoot, Inspired is ready to pounce. Jankos, however, this time around, maybe reading the play. I think that recall was cancelled. If I read the minimap correctly, Mikyx starting to step forward.
Yeah, both junglers just a few minions from ticking to level 6, so Jankos could just sit in a bush or go for the play right now.
Rocket grab into the punch. Teleport starts to be channeled. The death sentence is going to be spell shielded as Jankos is able to avoid that one.
This is critical, though. Pulling the TP off of Larssen when Caps didn't actually use his Destiny Gate to enter into the fight. So now G2 working with a global advantage. Neither top lane has a TP to get involved. And Jankos, once he finishes that Grump, will be level 6 and consider attacking somewhere on the map.
And also how this laning phase was playing out, Larssen has played very aggro into Caps' phase, taking advantage of the early power that this Lucian has together. He is 10 CS up, keep that in mind, but now he's lost that teleport and will be able to give Caps just a few extra minutes, a few waves extra to push back.
I think the fact that Jankos was able to get out of that situation as well was definitely a tricky one.
There was a ward. I was wondering if Wunder could walk down potentially and threaten stealing the blue, but he backed up.
Good stuff so far from both teams. So Rogue find themselves with a bit of an early game lead. Obviously, they were able to get that kill up towards the top side of the map. And now that the level 6s have come through for both Jankos and Caps, we're going to start looking at where they're looking to play. Trymbi currently has no summoner spells. This wave looks quite bad for Hans Summer right now, but it is going to slowly start to push back towards him, so he doesn't have to overextend. Meanwhile, Inspired is looking to get himself some more jungle camps. Right now, him and Jankos are staying very even. But for the first time in this series, it seems that Jankos will not have his camp stolen away from underneath his nose.
He got it out in time. It's good news for him. Culling from Larssen should deal a lot of damage. Has really been controlling this lane in the early stages, up 13 CS. Just over 2 waves there for him. Meanwhile, Inspired, you'll notice, actually went for Sork shoes on the first base. Now, pretty much everyone is going for Lucidity boots, and I'm not sure how much I love this, but the theory there is that Inspired, the sole source of magic damage on Rogue's composition. That, of course, can be a weakness the later we get into this game. You can see already Wunder pretty standard with the Bramble Vest, but if he goes the more tank Karma route, Mikyx can stack these things up as well. Armor is going to be very, very valuable for G2.
Well, Inspired Odo may have the option to jump onto Jankos here. Odo's going to dash over the wall, and it looks like G2 have the opportunity to start the hell. They're not going to. It's another advantage for Rogue in the early game. It's another game where they managed to step up, and Trymbi waiting in the wings. Flame Death Sentence is available to him, but what support can come? Larssen's making his way down. There's no call available. Fantastic Lantern coming out from Trymbi. Ignite is on cooldown, and ultimately, Rekkles just walks away. Had that culling been up, maybe something more could have come.
I'm amazed he lived.
Yeah.
I'm actually amazed. He had no summoner spells. I thought he was guaranteed to die there, but he actually just walks that one out, runs straight towards Caps and says, please get your gold card ready. I feel like the team's chasing me, and G2 will actually get a Herald off the back of this, which I think is super important, by the way, for Rogue, because you want to use that to funnel that money either... Oh, and he dodges the Jinx rocket as well. Very nicely prepared from G2. They've learned from their mistakes from prior weeks. But yeah, you want to use that Herald to either unlock the Lucian or to also funnel money into the Renekton as well. So denying that away from Rogue, I think, is a big benefit to G2.
Yeah, and look at this too. Right now, Rogue are trying to cut off Rekkles from making it to the bottom lane, but you have to keep in mind, Caps has ultimate, Jankos has ultimate. G2 have tools to get into the bot lane very quickly. So instead of looking for the dive, Inspired said, hey, posture as far forward as you want, I'm going to be on the Drake.
Yeah, and I also feel in that mid lane pressure where Rekkles was able to run into back, you can see how much respect is being paid to the rocket grab from Mikyx Rekkles.
Well, there it is.
Blitzcrank, rather. Flash for flash traded, so that'll be fantastic in favor of G2.
Yeah.
They're still down a Caed, 1,000 gold, but Rogue were able to pick up that Mountain Drake. Now we're seeing Odo jumping onto Wunder. It is such a frustrating lane matchup to play. Hansama is flashless, but Inspired is in range. The flash.
Here we go.
Flame Choppers buy some time. There's the Destiny and Gate. First kill for G2 on the board.
And this goes back 4 minutes ago when Larssen used his TP to get into bot lane when no kill went down. Well, now he doesn't have the TP to answer in the bottom lane. G2 used their global advantage to get a kill on the bot side of the map, and now G2, whenever those timers return, Rogue have to be on their guard because G2 are not going to want to slow down.
I mean, the good news for Larssen is he will get some plates back, and I actually don't think G2 will get a huge number of plates on the bot side, so maybe gold-wise, this is still slightly advantageous for Rogue because I think a lot of ults were committed. The fact that Jankos uses his ultimate here as well, I think was a little excessive. I'm not sure they needed to commit all 4 people. The fact that Caps gets that kill is definitely great for him, but the 3-on-3, I think would have actually just been enough for G2 as Larssen gets 2 plates in mid. Of course, Hansama was able to get 3 total plates in bot. So I think, as you can see in the gold, Rogue is still sitting quite comfortably for the time being.
Yeah, they definitely are. G2 not even concerning themselves with a plate in the bot side. They wanted to reset, and this is something I really like to see is Mikyx getting out of bot lane. A common criticism of mine versus G2 this split has been Mikyx and Jankos and a little bit of desync not working as well together, but that time, immediately after the play, not wasting any time, both resetting and getting back on the map. No play was made, but now he's here for Larssen.
Well, can he find the rocket grab? Channels the Hex Flash, decides to bounce away. While we got a brief moment, I do just want to highlight Larssen. It is somebody who is up a significant amount, plus 25 CS. We've talked about the impact on his teleports versus the Destiny Gate. But when Larssen plays against Caps or G2, look at his KDA, his damage per minute, his CS difference. It is significantly different to every other mid laner. This Lucian was first picked for Rogue. He has an advantage as the first 10 or 11 minutes of the game has played out, but he needs to be able to use that advantage to try to get in G2's face and slow or limit what Caps can do.
It's always the interesting story when you look at new up-and-coming mid laners, and like Larssen's been in the league now for just short of 2 years, and he's kind of that next mid laner that's supposed to be the person to overtake Caps. He's the person that's constantly challenging, and when you kind of just look at the numbers, he has struggled. And that's not to say that last year when they made in that best of 5, he really did step up, and I think that he is still having a really good series overall. Like his 4-man stun Syndra last game.
Yes.
I do not think that he chokes versus Caps, but I think that he's still yet to get the better of Caps, and that is something that has been very annoying for him to deal with over his short career here so far in the LEC.
And now for him, it's about converting that CS lead, the lane advantage, into something more for the team, because we came in after the draft phase, we're like, Rogue, they need to use this mid-jungle to completely unlock the map. Well, now G2 go bot lane once again.
Goodbye, Hansama. Trymbi's going to be able to flash away from the curtain call. The box comes out. One more gold card. The death sentence will not be enough. And Caps will be able to get the help of Rekkles for the double. Odo is now being bullied by Wunder, but who's bullying whom? Wunder will have a mantra ability in just a moment. My words got tongue-tied. The Soul Flare doesn't hit the target, but now Inspired. Can he land the Javelin Toss? 2 quick kills in the bottom lane for G2. Rogue looking for a counter up top. That's the Empower W. This will slow down any impending chores as well as bites, and one last auto. Javelin Toss needs to find its target. Wunder escapes with his life.
And I think this is a good trade for G2 overall. The ganks in bot lane are just too easy. We talked about it in the early game. The double globals make attacking that lane just so straightforward. And this is like my concern around Rogue's comp in the early game. It feels like that they want to do too much. They want to keep their bot lane alive while trying to snowball the top side of the map. But the problem is that the advantages that G2 are gaining every time they attack bot side are way more fruitful than what Rogue is gaining in the top side. And it looks like G2's looking to attack it again.
Oh no!
This feels so bad. Not going to be able to land it this time round. The Lantern will keep Hansama alive. Looking at the minimap, Jankos is making his way down the river. No ult available to him though.
Yeah, this type of map movement though, what you'd expect from an elite team in Europe. Here, this is just Mikyx popping over a wall. Hansama and Trymbi feel safe, but they really shouldn't. Caps had already left mid lane, was already looking for this on the bottom side, and then just picture perfect from them. Rekkles holding on to his final shot. And this Caps gets the gold card to secure it. Exactly.
It's too clean, too easy, man. It's such a devastating combo, those double globals. Like, we can all remember, like, you took a Shen in here as well, and, like, flashbacks start coming back from earlier seasons, and it can be so ruthless. But for now, Rogue still hold onto a slight gold lead. They likely want to try and get themselves the next Drake, but their timing is not good for it. You'll see that Wunder is already roaming down, and G2 have the numbers, so this will be the second Drake of the game for them, and it's either an Ocean or it's an Infernal. And I'm telling you now, if it's an Infernal, Rogue needs to start getting worried, because that is only more damage to this G2 comp.
Yeah, I mean, Rogue, they've got like lane advantages in their soul lanes, their jungler's doing well, getting ahead just a little bit, and they have the overall gold like you were saying, but with the way that G2 can cheat priority on the map, can use these globals to attack Rogue constantly, it doesn't feel like Rogue are going to be able to find those windows to make something happen. Inspired has been relatively quiet after that early gank towards the top side of the map, and really G2 can just bully with their bodies. They can run around here, grouped up.
Oh, that is a lot of damage. Okay. Jankos, the pounce into the primal swipe, and now all of a sudden gold card into the rocket grab. Send him flying as Inspired will get taken out by Mikyx. Yes, Inspired found one, but it's instantly dropped down.
Well, this paints it perfectly, right? Jankos not fast enough on the reaction to pop his spell shield there. Inspired does a good job to find a kill, but immediately G2 have all the tools in the world, all the range in order to fight back and at least find a one-for-one trade in what should have just been an easy in and out for Inspired.
Yeah, it certainly should have been. But Rogue, they were able to get a mid-tier 1 off the back of that as well, so they're still maintaining a little bit of map control. Caps, he sees that that mid tower is relatively low, but recognizes that a lot of his team members are back on the base. I like the pathing that he does here, though. Drafts the gold card, says, Larssen,
I dare you.
Wish to approach this, because you don't know if I got a buddy around here. To be fair, though, I think he actually had enough vision to say that, so I'm a little surprised that he was that scared. In any case,
ooh,
just misses there from Rekkles. The sad B does come through.
I absolutely love the emotes, and I think it is crucial to call out here, by the way, that Rogue are still 1,300 gold up. Vedius, I may have missed it. It is an Infernal that will be spawning in 3.5 minutes now. G2 will have their eyes set on it. One dragon apiece, but something that has been extremely important throughout the course of this game, the impact that Mikyx has had, the threat that he has provided, involved with 3 out of his team's 4 kills. Multiple G2 members have sent their resources down bottom. I think Wunder may have forgotten what the rest of G2 looks like throughout the course of this game, but Rekkles, 202, 100% kill participation. He's already got himself set up on that Gale Force, and the moment G2 set their sights on a target, all of the abilities in their kit can easily help them secure it.
It's quite interesting, because when I think about it, and like, I'm not sure how deep I want to go into this topic, but one of the criticisms Inspired has had is that he is quite a... Ooh, hang on a second. This may be a couple globals coming on their way to the bot lane. Never mind. But one of the criticisms that Inspired has had is that he is a very formulaic, smart jungler. And in a game like this, you kind of just have to throw everything and the kitchen sink at your opposition. You need to be like perma-diving top. You need to be playing for early Rift Tiles. You need to be just like taking way more gambles. And like, I look at players like Blabber, and when they draft champions like this, it is just perma-gank non-stop all the time. And I think the Rogue haven't been able to do that in this early game. They're looking to get something back on Rekkles.
Well, Destiny as well as Paranoia. Caps will eat most of the culling before the gold card stops it. Dash away to safety. It's in fact Jankos that goes down first. Can Rogue continue this chase? Blastcone used to get Wunder to safety, and Odo stopped where he stands. Can't find himself a stun just yet. Inspired turning his attention to Mikyx. If a rocket grab catches a Rogue member, they will be able to get one back for G2.
Yeah, looks like Rogue should be able to back it up, or do they even want to? Trymbi gets hooked!
They manage to find the catch. The static field comes out by some time. Trymbi stays alive so long. Finally, the wild card take him down. Mikyx's now caught inside the pit. That's a kill for Unsummer. He gets himself excited. The dash forward from Inspired. He doesn't have the support just yet. Will be able to heal. Pounce, swipe, rockets fired from downtown. It's Rogue that are winning this fight.
It's Inspired calling to keep going into the enemy jungle. He saw a blue buff. He wanted it, and once G2 said, let's fight, he's there to continue the attack on in. It looked rough at the start start, losing Trymbi to the hook, but Inspired landed everything.
Vedius, you called for chaos, and just as you say it, Rogue find themselves a fight. 3-1-2 for Inspired, 3-1-1 for Hansama. So crucially picked up those kills.
So the criticism has to go on to Jankos here, because Nocturne can't do this until the Sterax comes through. You need that extra bit of survivability to dive into the backline without full support, and this is one of the risks that you have. So watch it. I think that the engage onto the Lucian is not a bad one. He sees he has the damage, but the moment he's dived into 4 people, he's still a squishy Nocturne, only 1 item. And with him gone, you can see how actually the access that Rogue have onto the backline, no, they don't have the strongest engage, but they have a lot of poke tools, they have a lot of pick potential, and then it's just this dance back and forth between the 2 teams looking for that pick, and it ends up just one into another, which Rogue is able to snowball off the back.
I mean, it looks like it was going to be rough after that initial hook went down, because of course Odoamne was traded out as well, so here it's a 3 versus 3, but Inspired times this Zhonya's, and then coming out of it has his own stopwatch to buy the space. Rekkles can't sit around and try to hit him, even has to flash out of the area.
Inspired is playing to win today. On point in the early game previously, plays that team fight to perfection, and crucially, Hansama is able to set up the play. Now, while we were in the replay, Hansama got dove on by the gold card, was forced to use the cleanse, caught the lantern to safety. Odoamne, there forced again, pushed away from Caps. Trymbi stepping forward, Mikyx waiting in the wings. It's Dragon number 3, it'll be the second for either team. Paranoia buys some time, Caps gets caught by the hook, by the flay, he's down! Inspired gets himself the next kill. The rockets from Hansama push G2 backwards.
Great hook from Trymbi, landing onto Caps means that by him dropping, Rogue secured themselves the next Drake. And, you know, I was ready to count Rogue out, but after getting that huge fight in bot lane, the fact that some of their big damage dealers now have so much more money and do so much more damage, you can see in these front-to-back fights, it's a lot harder for G2 to properly execute. They do not have the items that they need quite yet to be able to play the fights that they want.
Exactly, and we saw the whole game long, Rogue had money, they had firepower, but we hadn't seen them in that 5 versus 5 team fight. Here, when G2 are coming in with all 5 players, when they're not able to use the range of their comp, the globals, the mobility of their composition, they fall prey. Trymbi sitting in the bush the entire time, lands a hook, knowing Caps wanted that gold card, and well, if the fight had continued, Odoamne would have been able to soak up so much damage through the power of his ultimate in the backline as well.
4,500 gold to lead, 2 dragons to 1. Now, this is an advantage that Rogue can use to accelerate forward. But it is so interesting how these fights are playing out. And one of the things that I love seeing is the interactions between Trymbi and Mikyx. Mikyx, a lot of discussion around his performance last weekend. But just look at the number of games difference, 89 to 9. Almost every skirmish throughout the course of these 20 minutes has been defined by a rocket grab or a death sentence or a lantern. Mikyx goes fishing and is forced to lose his flash.
I mean, you just brought up the difference in supports, right? And this is one of the reasons why Mikyx's performance was brought into question even last game. After that, remember, Ender, we were like, wait, what was that dash into flash play from Mikyx? Like, he has not had the strongest performance. He has heavily been criticized, and I think there's a lot of evidence as to why. He definitely had some good hooks, but let's see if he can find another one. He is looking right now. The Fog of War is scary.
Oh,
okay, they read it.
Oh, man.
I love it.
No! Larssen misses the culling, but the super mega death rocket finishes it off. 1 kill apiece for the AD carries as the curtains are called. A sidestep backwards from a javelin toss means Caps gets out to safety, and it's an interesting turn of events.
Yeah, just mind games left and right, because I think they did see Mikyx walk into the pit. They didn't know exactly where he was, but they guessed it after the last hook that went down. So a nice play there from Rogue. Larssen does end up losing his life forward, and Rekkles continues to farm away on kills on minions as well here. Definitely a force to be reckoned with.
5,000 gold the lead. Rogue are up 1 kill, and Dragon up 3 towers. And now they are on the front foot. They are pressuring G2, and just an interesting turn of events here playing with vision.
Yeah, I like how Rogue is controlling their side waves. Notice that they get top pushed in, they get mid pushed in. They're aware that Mikyx is trying to make this play happen again. The spear comes through, and Larssen's like, I see a quick opportunity for a pick here. But then, I don't think he was expecting the slow on that Jhin flower. I forget which ability it is, but it ends up coming through. And it, I think that was enough to allow Mikyx to land the hook. So it ends up being a 1-for-1 trade. But overall, the biggest takeaway for me is how Rogue is now unlocked on the map. after they've taken down all the outer towers, you can see how much more fluidly they're moving. They don't have to be as afraid of all these constant ganks that are coming towards the bot side of the map from G2. They're being respectful, they're using pressure, and normally when they push outside, they do it as 2, not as 1. So Inspired is covering Larssen when he's pushing out the wave. Just a second ago, you saw him covering Odoamne as he was pushing out that wave. And so they're just being aware of the potential global pick power that G2's comp does have, and they realize that until Rekkles probably gets to 3 items, this G2 comp just doesn't have as much damage as theirs does, because they have effectively 4 damage dealers, especially with a fed Nidalee and a fed Jinx. Rogue is more than happy to take any fights right now.
You also have to point out that Inspired, the sole threat of magic damage on the side of Rogue, has been playing these team fights so well.
Yep.
Major lead over Jankos, even without the early pathing. Masterclass that he put on last game, a very close hook, and now we look to see when the skill shots connect, because really that's all Rogue are waiting for. They're waiting for a hook, they're waiting for a spear, and then they can press go.
Have you ever heard of like whack-a-mole, where you just have to wait and land a shot? That's what this game is going to be defined by. One skill shot. Once you whack that mole, that's when you win the fight. But look, once they're not landing, nothing to follow up. Rocket grab from Mikyx. Does not want Odo. Do not want to pull in a Renekton with the dominance, the ability to jump on your back line. 40 seconds until the next dragon. Every single skirmish is starting at maximum range, and as soon as one person gets hooked, that's the go signal for the initiation.
Have you heard of a PS5? There's more than one now.
What is this PS5 you speak of?
Oh, man,
they don't exist anywhere at the moment. But what does exist in 20 seconds is the Infernal Drake. What does Vision look like at the moment? I see Rogue will be the first one starting to step forward, and G2 maybe a little late to this party, Vedius.
Well, they do have a little bit of control primarily around the bot side. It seems that for now G2's investing a little bit more top. It looks to me like that they want to trade top tower for...
Oh, here we go.
That's the flash used. That'll send Jankos even further. Death Sentence will connect onto Cap. So flash blown from Larssen, Destiny, and Paranoia used by G2.
It's unfortunate though that Larssen just snapped the flash and didn't wait for the Lantern to come through. Would have definitely gotten him to safety as well. You can see Rogue on the Drake on the bot side of the map. That will take them to Infernal Point. Soul Point once again for this team. It wasn't enough for them in game number 1, but it feels like they have so much more control in this, and if Rogue continue to play the map well and not fall victim to G2, using their range, using their mobility to pick them off, Rogue are going to be able to set up around that and bait G2 into a full 5v5.
You can still feel the tension though, because despite G2 being in a significant deficit right now, if they are able to pick off Larssen, who is flashless, or Hansama in an ensuing fight, that goal deficit becomes irrelevant. But it is crucial to successfully kill off a member of Rogue if you are hoping for G2 to win some fights.
So the thing that concerned me when I saw this draft from Rogue was that, like, they're engaged and super strong, and they're not really going to get to decide how fights play when they have a hyper carry that they want to play around. Especially when you look at G2's ability to dive with a Twisted Fate and a Nocturne, I thought that Jinx would struggle to be able to play the game. However, the thing that I don't think I really gave as much thought into was the amount of frontline that G2 also don't have. Their engage tools are actually very limited to the Nocturne, and while Karma can provide some shielding, until the Starax comes through for Jankos, he isn't that durable. Yeah. Every time he goes in, he's just going to get one shot, especially against an enemy AD carry that is a higher level than he is. So I feel like that now the tables have turned. I feel like that this comp is now much harder for G2 to play, and they kind of have to find a pick before they can really do anything, which is incredibly difficult with how Rogue are just playing the map right now. They're being so respectful of G2's ability to find these picks that they're actually sitting in a very comfortable position, and I think that they have more than enough to be able to even up the series.
I want to add on to you. You mentioned jumping onto an AD carry at a higher level. Both of them are higher levels. 3, in fact, for Larssen, who has just hit level 16 again, 2 levels ahead of Caps. Cannot deny that his Syndra in the previous game was very impressive, albeit unable to get through the kit that Seraphine had. This time round, 0-1-4 with the support of the rest of Rogue has all the tools necessary. 3 minutes until Infernal, Baron is up, and Rogue are in a great position.
Yeah, I mean, it's just the lack of, I think, upfront dive damage that G2 have, because, I mean, Jankos has an item and scraps. Caps has 3 items, but not that much damage on a Twisted Fate.
All right, gonna jump onto Odoamne, who slices, he dices. Curtain is called. Shot number 1, shot number 2, gold card lands. Wild cards 2, shot number 4. Literally every single thing in the G2 arsenal to kill the crocodile. And then what?
They've got double Shirelius. They are looking to run you down. So even if the globals aren't enough, hey guys, we can get in there. And they didn't even have the Mantra E coming out from Wunder either. So they do get the kill, and that's the theory of the comp. It's nice that they prove it, but now with the TP back onto the map, do G2 get anything with that numbers advantage?
The funny thing is they have to catch their waves now. Like, they have to catch mid, they have to catch top. Notice they don't have it. That's been started. They're actually starting this one off.
Oh, can they finish it off? Jankos, by the way, does have Stairs completed. Blast Cone used. Very good heads-up play from Inspire.
Do they have any wards?
Flash and Smite is available to Jankos. Rocket Grab could be influential for Mikyx. Teleport making its way to the top lane. Mikyx's going to make his step forward. Flame Chompers dodged away from. Zap won't find its target, and the Baron will reset. G2 have delayed the Baron play from Rogue.
So Odoamne did have TP up and Flash still available, which meant that Rogue had the option to commit to that fight if they wanted to, but I'm glad that they disengaged. I think that just putting that little bit of pressure onto G2 to make them sweat just a little bit, but not flipping it. Don't gamble that. There's no need to when you have this goal lead and you know that you have the Infernal Soul coming up and you should feel stronger. Double Infinity Edge AD carry against this comp. Yeah, okay, Sterak's has now come through, but Inspired's about to have his death cap finished. Like, I don't know, man. I think that Rogue is just in too powerful of a position, and I think they need to make a huge mistake, or G2 need to find some insane outplay for G2 to actually turn this one around.
Yeah, and I mean, the big win for Rogue off that Baron play is getting the teleport off of Wunder as well, because Odoamne, like you said, still has his, Larssen has his, so they could send either into bot lane, and then if you pull Caps into bot lane to start farming minions, well, then you're so much more at peace. You know that G2 aren't going to be looking to force those fights on you over and over again if you have eyes on the Twisted Fate, and he's sort of, you know, pushed over to the side of the map.
Well, Larssen and Hansam will need to keep their eyes on that TF. They both have flashes available for them, as the Infernal Soul is about to be fought over. Inspired did just hit level 16. Not the scariest on champion like Nidalee. However, G2 push that mid wave out. Now Rogue will be able to bounce it back into G2 in the river.
And control of the river, control of the vision is huge for a comp with a Blitzcrank for setting up that pick, but Rogue have the mid wave. They could literally just run it down mid. There's an inhibitor there. They're opting instead to try and collect and return some of this vision against G2, but they have to look out for the hook.
Well, with the Lucian and a Jinx, if Rogue peel for the mid lane, they can burn that down. Zap catches a target, the Rockets as well. Cap's forced to flash for his life. Rocket Grab is just about available. Gold card will tag Odo's Crocodile, and Rogue have pushed G2 backwards. It's Rogue inside the pits.
Waiting out there, Renekton could be huge here. The front line is much weakened for Rogue. Trymbi goes in.
That's the flash. Death Sentence will not find its target just yet, but the curtain call is pulled and Rekkles stays safely on the back line. Dominus has timed out. The Infernal's down.
Who's going to win the smite?
G2 inside. It's a flip.
Oh, Rekkles!
It's Rekkles that steals away the dragon, but at what cost? Mickey's already down. Get excited for Hansama. He's managed to fire those fish bones rockets all the way into G2's back line. Gold card will slow him down, and Rekkles still escapes with his life. Larssen and Inspired trying to kill the retreating members of G2. It's a double kill from the Cougar form. Inspired. Jankos runs for his life. Teleport coming in. Larssen going all the way forward. Dashes, kills Jankos where he stands. And Rogue are now tapping on the inhibitor base.
Just a beautiful team fight there for Rogue. G2 threw everything into the pit to try and steal that away. Rekkles was able to get it in the end, but it is Rogue in the fight, and it is Inspired's Nidalee diving in over and over again to take Rogue for a win. Is
that the timer? It's only Rekkles and Mikyx alive. 20 seconds on the clock, facing down 4 members. Odo can teleport in to make it a 5v2. There's going to be enough of a delay to slow things down. The first Nexus turret will fall. So does Mikyx after popping the ultimate. The Nexus turret number 2 will fall as well. And Rogue, for the 3rd time in their franchise's history, will take down G2.
I have to eat my words. Like, I was a big fan of the G2 draft when I saw it initially, but come game time, they couldn't snowball effectively enough through bot side. And then once this comp got slightly ahead, you could see how difficult it was for G2 to actually find these picks. That bot lane fight, in my opinion, was the moment. When Rogue got so many kills onto Hansama and onto Inspired, they were just completely unlocked on the map. They took down all those outer towers, and they snowballed so effectively. Very well played from them.
I mean, the early game, again, went well from Rogue. Less explosive, maybe out of the jungle initially, but they had advantages in both their soul lanes and in their jungle as well. And I think also stacking up the early Drakes, forcing G2 into those fights, that was really rough for G2, because in the 5v5 where they had to, you know, contest over an objective and sort of throw themselves into a pit, that was never really looking good for them.
And it's such an interesting scenario to find ourselves in. When you look at these two compositions, I don't think really anybody could have been as prepared for what we've seen from game 1 to game 2. Now G2 will have the option of side selection, and we get to evaluate what strategy do they go back into. I don't think if they are blue side, Rogue will give them Seraphine and Senna again. Be sure to stick around, because after the break, we're going to stack Analyst Desk ready to break down game 2 as Rogue managed to bounce back.
And
everyone to the LEC studio. We've definitely had our fill of action so far in this best of 5, and there's a lot more to come as Rogue and G2 are now tied after 2 games. Rogue managed to bring it back, and the big thing I have to ask my analysts, because there was so much to say about the drafting game 1 and how Rogue got completely outdrafted. Bwipo, I'll give it to you first. Did they do better this time around, and what did you make of the drafts this time?
Honestly, I thought it was the range advantage from the gold cards into a blitz hook. When Nocturne turns the lights off, I feel like the game is almost 4v5 at that point, right? You got a gold card into a hook, and then the fight will play out from there, and it'll be too hard for Rogue to get anything going. I think they can only really pop off with 2 spells. Well, one is a passive, get excited from Jinx, and then the culling. I think that these are the 2 main tools to really break G2's comp, and in this game, actually, it was Inspired and Hans.
It was.
Yeah, I think the interesting thing about these comps is they have their strengths and weaknesses in the sense where Rogue has really good team fighting if you can get started, but they lack a lot of engage, right? Very short range Renekton or a Thresh hook is basically what you're relying on. Whereas G2 have really good pick, really good setup, like Bwipo said, get a stun, get a hook, turn the lights off, let's kill that target, and then start moving forward. So, but then they lack team fight, right? So if it's just a straight 5v5 brawl, Rogue will always come out on top. So I think that's what you saw throughout the game, right? G2 trying to find what Bwipo said with the stuns, with the hooks, trying to find the first target and then move forwards. But if they didn't get it and they failed to get it, then Rogue just kind of ran them down.
A couple of things I want to highlight specifically. First up, you had kind of a mini discussion in the green room about whose comp is actually better in the straight up 5v5 or as the game goes longer. You said that you thought that the composition for Rogue, they had the carries, but that the carries were being weighted down by the rest of the team. Is that paraphrasing it correctly?
I mean, I think the Nidalee and the Renekton kind of weigh down the comp. Thresh in a way as well. I mean, he's only really there for the Lantern to try and save somebody, but with no cleanses on the Lucian, for example, I felt like he was a prime target for the majority of the game. But ultimately, the huge gold advantage that the carries of, all 3 carries of Rogue actually got was just too much. It outweighed any possible downside.
Yeah, there's a lot of good mechanical plays from the carries of Rogue, and I think that the thing that held the Rogue comp together was the Jinx for the late game, right? The excited, the running forwards. And I think the Renekton Nidalee Lucian was all more of like an early game answer in a sense to the Nocturne that wants to farm and find picks. And I think that if you look at G2's comp in general, as much as I thought that the scaling was really strong, I think they were also relying on the Jhin a lot, right? You've got Nocturne TF. I think as the later the game goes on, this gets countered by things like the QSS, cleanse, stopwatches. It gets really hard for them to find the carries. But like Bwipo said, going for the front to back, looking for these picks is what they need to do, and Rekkles needs to get all the kills and get ahead so that G2's comp can find these picks.
I want to jump forward replay-wise for a second. I just keep throwing curveballs to production, sorry, because I would like to look at, because we've talked about it so much, about the team fight that brought Rogue back in the game, and actually the Jinx really, really getting their marks down, and the fact that this was the saving grace. And it had to work out, Bwipo, for Rogue. So to me, it's actually quite impressive that they turned it around, because G2, up until that point, looked in control.
I mean, honestly, here, I think they opted into this fight. So right now, I think that Jankos can, like, he overcommitted, he dipped in, can't really get out, and then now there's a fiesta, really. Like, oh, what's really going on? No one can tell. Renekton flashes forward, doesn't quite commit. Mikyx is going to get stuck behind the wall here. Hook it, like, Odoamne's going to try and finish him off. Not quite be able to, like, he gets hooked over the wall here. And I don't really know what is happening, but in the end of all of this madness, Rogue manages to pick up 4 kills, which 2 of which, or 3 even maybe, go over to Hans Sama and basically create a situation where now, because G2 lost this fight, Hans is farming up a storm, getting all the items. The Lucian, like Larssen's Lucian, starts doing the same, and at the same time, Inspired was already so far ahead of Jankos that it just kept getting bigger and bigger.
Yeah, and I think that G2 were the ones who opted into this fight, right? Yeah. They're the ones that sent the Nocturne in, and Nocturne didn't come out, tried to go for the 1-for-1. And let's be honest, that fight was really sloppy. But the key thing is Rogue came out ahead, which is really, really important, because that not only was Inspired ahead in farm, he gets a couple kills in that fight. Larssen, by around 25-30 minutes, was up almost 100 CS on Caps, who was playing the supportive TF, and the Jinx was sitting at 3 items. So at that point, you have to question, how does G2 really win the fights? And you could see on the Drake fights, they tried to look for these picks, like Bwipo said, but in the end, they just decided to run at them. Jinx gets 1 excited or 1 reset, and then from there, G2 really have to run.
Is it disingenuous to say that Rogue had the plan, and in the end, that's what it came down to? They knew that if the game scaled, and if they could get Hans in that position, that they should be able to win the front-to-back team fights, or is that oversimplifying it?
To me, I feel like G2's composition is just one-dimensional to the point where it's a pick composition, right?
Okay.
You don't see many pick compositions similar to a poke comp or something. It's one-dimensional. It's obvious what they want to do. And I think the meta right now is so much about Drakes and team fights and setting up Barons and baiting the fight that going for these 5v5, it's going to happen. It's inevitable. So having this pick comp and not finding picks before the fights means you've already lost, because even if a 5v5 kicks off, Rogue should be favored. And I feel like G2 kind of dropped the ball on finding those picks before the fight started, or Rogue just answered it really well.
You agree?
I mean, pretty much. I think that a huge part here was Inspired's Nidalee getting so far ahead, Larssen getting 100 CS up almost, getting tower gold everywhere. The fight here kicked off Hansa scaling as well, and when you press tab in the game and you see pretty much 3 of the enemy champions having like 80+ CS leads, probably 2,000 or 3,000 gold lead on each of the carries, the game's always going to be difficult to play.
It is. Let's take a look at this final team fight then, because this is such a difficult one for me as we get the information that G2 is going to be on blue side for game 3. This was also tricky because in the end, Rogue don't even win this fight, but they do win the game.
Yeah, I think the key thing to note here, the Nocturne ult is down, right? And they're trying to find the hook. So Mikyx trying to find it. They're trying to set up a gold card into a hook, and they're going to try and steal the Drake with the Jhin 4th shot. In the end, they do. The hook misses, but then the second the hook misses and Hans gets a reset, like we said, he can start running forwards. G2 have to run. They've got no Nocturne ult to Wordwig. They can't land the stun card really, and Jhin is split from the fight. So from here, G2 being split up and not finding the pick means that Rogue can just run at them with the reset and close out the game.
I meant that they lose the Drake, obviously, but it doesn't matter for them in the end. Bwipo, we've now seen 2 games. G2 is going to go on blue side for game 3. We talked a lot about what we expected to see from both teams, and if I summarize it, it was we want to see if G2 is going to make changes to their drafts. I think they have done right up until this point. And how much is Rogue going to show us that is different from what we know that we're going to get from them? What's your verdict on those 2 points?
I think G2 is going to want to match some farming power. Like, they're going to want to play a draft that's comfortable farming up on every champion. I think a huge problem in this game was the fact that, again, like, when you looked at the scoreboard, at some point, everyone on Rogue was just ahead in gold. And if 5 champions are ahead in gold of the other team, even if your composition makes more sense together, it's hard to not get overpowered by that.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of key things that both teams can take away here. I think Rogue needs to adapt. Me and Bwipo were talking about this. Odoamne on the strong side didn't feel like the best win condition for Rogue. 4,000 damage in that game on a Renekton is not what you want when you're playing top side. Maybe put him on a weak side champ and get some more resource towards the bot side because they got counterpicked on support.
Back to weak side.
And then the other thing is, Rogue are playing Jinx, which I think G2 should have known. And G2's the one who are banning it on blue side, right? So G2 being on blue side, I think that Jinx can be taken away. How are Rogue going to deal with the Seraphine? There's a lot of questions coming into this game about counterpick support and such. So I'll have to see how both teams adapt.
We will. Thank you very much. A spot in the LEC Finals is on the line tonight, and G2 and Rogue are dead even after 2 games. We'll be back at the Analyst desk for picks and bans in just a few minutes. Woo!
Spicy.
Spicy indeed.